Hi, welcome back to my broom cupboard. Now today's video is all about what I think is probably the most sophisticated model railway turntable controller that anyone has ever seen. Regular viewers will remember that some while ago I posted a video where I was talking about the turntables that I had sort of as ongoing projects to build, and the thing that was really holding it all up was figuring out the control mechanism. Well, lots of people got in touch with me with helpful suggestions and ideas, but one chap in particular has come forward and basically designed the whole system for me. And in this video I'm going to show you what he's come up with. So his name's Aid. He goes on YouTube by the name The Electric Monk, and quite apart from being an absolute genius, he's a really nice guy too. In fact, that's one of the great things about this hobby and having this YouTube channel. I've met loads of really nice people, and Aid is absolutely one of the best. Anyway, here's the control box for his little project, and there's still some development work to do on it. The electronics and everything is superb. I think that's pretty much good to go, but Aid, being the kind of chap he is, has thought of all sorts of other little modifications and improvements and things. So this is kind of like the beta version, the very first one that we're testing out. So he kindly sent it to me. I've been playing with it with the intention of trying to break it, and I've not broken it so far, so I thought we'd make a video of showing you what it does. I hope you find it interesting. So then, a few weeks ago I received in the post this wonderful collection of goodies, and it should really not take an expert to work out what they're all for. So what I'm going to do is turn this switch on. This is going to activate this little box. We'll have a look at this closely in just a minute. This is the controller that will control up to 4 turntables, and there's a couple of mock-up example turntables here so you can sort of see what's what. So what I'm going to do is, well, it's telling me it's detected a turntable, so we're just going to initialize it. And you can see the turntable is spinning, and it will continue to spin until it finds its kind of home spot. Now the screen of the display shows that I've got 1, 2, 3 roads programmed in, and we can program some more. So I can select a road and I can turn the turntable to it. Hopefully you can see that turning. Now what's really great about this is the display is giving me a visual indication of what the turntable itself is doing. You might be able to see on the display, one end is marked with an arrow, that's the head of the turntable. So let's imagine I want to send the tail of the turntable, so the other end, away from the arrow, to road number 1. To do that I'd select road 1. I can press this button to toggle across, and the display shows me that I've now selected the tail, and I'm going to send that clockwise. And there we go. So that's all pretty cool. What I'm going to do is take you in closer and we can see exactly how this thing is programmed. It's really very clever indeed. Okay, so I've brought you in a little bit closer now, and hopefully you can see the screen a little bit better. What I'm going to do is do a bit of a split screen setup here so you can see this hopefully clearly, the control box itself, but also the turntable in a little bit more detail. So I'm going to turn the controller on, and you'll see it comes up with a kind of welcome screen, which is great. And now it says Wi-Fi active. And what it's doing is it's looking to connect via Wi-Fi with the control box that makes the turntable itself work. So if I turn that on, what we have to do is wait a few seconds for the control box itself to warm up, and then it will connect automatically. And you can see it's connected. So what we need to do is just to press the clockwise button, which is this one here, just to initialize it. And just as before, you can see the turntable there rotating round. Okay, so it's found its home position. Now, can I bring the camera in a little bit closer? Hopefully you can see what's going on. So we've got an OLED display with the turntable on and that arrow I've mentioned pointing to the head of the turntable. And we've got 3 roads on here, 1, 2, and there's one labelled number 4. Clearly there should be a number 3, there probably was, and I've deleted it, so let's add a number 3. So if you look on the screen you can see we've got a road 1, a road 2 and a road 4 programmed in. So let's create a road 3. To do that we press the black button, which is the program button, and we're going to select a road, so we're going to choose road 3, and now using the clockwise and anti-clockwise buttons we can rotate the display. So you can see it rotating here, and the actual physical turntable is rotating also. So when we've chosen a position and we're happy with it, we press star to save the programming, and then press the program button once again, and you should see we've now got roads 1, 2, 3 and 4, and currently the head of the turntable is pointing to road 3. So let's imagine we want to rotate that through 180 degrees and set the tail to road 3. Well, all we would do is press the 3 button to select the road, and you may have seen a little black dot appears in the head to tell us that we've selected the head. Now if I press the hash button, it toggles from the head to the tail. So now we can just press, in this case, the anti-clockwise button, and the turntable will rotate through 180 degrees. And the display helpfully shows us what's going on. And there we go. Now what's really great about this is it will control more than one turntable. So we can have up 4 all connected to this at once, and I'll show you 2 working together in just a minute. What else can we show you on here? Well, if we come back into the programming display, we've got options to change the velocity, the speed at which it rotates. We can alter the rate at which it accelerates, and we'll look at that in a bit more detail in just a minute. But there's one other feature, rotate display, and I guess I'll show you that one in just a minute too. This is really clever indeed. So that's it sort of in a reasonable bit of detail, and you've seen the miniature version of the turntable working. What's this going to be like with a slightly larger turntable and with a piece of rolling stock on it? So let's have a look. So as for integrating this system with a sort of a larger version of the turntable for my model, I've copied really, or taken inspiration from the little mock-ups that Aid had made and sent to me. And so we've got a little 3D printed bracket here which holds the stepper motor, and I mean that's 3D printed, but it could have just been a piece of plywood, nothing too sophisticated. The actual well of the turntable I've made out of laminations of some MDF. Now what I'm going to show you is still a prototype, it's a bit crude, but hopefully you get the idea. Now I wanted to develop something that was going to be dead simple, so I think you'll agree that's pretty simple. And let's bring this out a little bit. Focus. There we go. And this is the well itself. It's made of some laminations of MDF which actually step down. This particular style of turntable has a sloping well, so I've just filled the steps with some filler and I've rubbed it down very crudely. Now I've put a race rail around the outside of here. This is cosmetic really, but it gives you an idea of what's what. Now if we look underneath here, we can see there's a little sensor, which you can probably see just there. There's a little Hall effect sensor, and that's what the turntable uses to register its home position. So the motor drops in and fastens on with these little thumb screws. and finally the sensor connects with the cable. So all of the sophisticated control side of things is contained within this box, and it's this box which connects via Wi-Fi to the control panel. So any cables you could see here, this is a power supply, there's a cable to the turntable itself, but there's nothing connecting to this box. This is free to go wherever it, wherever it needs to go. And eventually this will be built into the turntable itself. However, that's the basic setup. So of course we need a bridge on our turntable, and I've made one here. This is really crude, just for the purposes of this video really, and that's a sort of push fit onto there. Let me do a quick test just to see that it's working, and hopefully you can see that it's working. All quite straightforward. So I've tried to make this in such a way that it's repeatable. I'm going to build several of these, and I just want it to, each one to work perfectly and reliably. So then, that's the basic setup. I anticipate the well itself being constructed out of some laminations and material, something like that. Obviously this can be built up to the required height, and the idea is that this flange will allow this to sit from the underside into the baseboard, and through these holes I will have thumb screws into captive fittings, so the whole turntable can be dropped out, as well as the motor for maintenance or just whilst I'm building it. But anyway, for the purpose of this little video demo, hopefully this will give us an idea of what's what. So then here we go, we've got an engine on the turntable, and again split screen so you can see what I'm doing here. These two camera feeds are happening at the same time. So let's operate this and see what happens. So let's choose road 4 and we'll go clockwise. Now I can see that bit of track isn't, I've just laid it on there, it's not centered up. I'll center it in a minute, but anyway, there we go, that's the turntable working. And whilst I'm here, this is irritating me, so I'll just, there we go, it's a bit better. Let's run it now to road number 6, and note the acceleration. So it starts slowly and gathers momentum. And the screen here is showing us its progress on the way to road number 6. That's all pretty good. So now I'm going to send, so the head is, I don't suppose it really matters, but so that's the head is that end. So let's take it to number 7 now, and we'll send the tail to number 7. Hopefully you can see the little dot on the bridge on our screen, and we'll send it anti-clockwise. And we can send it back. Now the acceleration and the deceleration of this is programmable, and I'll run through that in just a minute. You can see it's a little bit jerky. You can see the stepping action as it's turning. Is it a big deal? Not really, but I think there might be something we can do about that. Let's just wait for it to stop. Okay, so it's now arrived with the head on road 4 and the tail on road 7. So what I'm going to do is come into the programming menu, and we can switch to velocity by pressing option C. Now it's currently set to a speed of 122. I'm not sure what that 122 means, but if I hold in the clockwise button, hopefully you might be able to see on the screen there the speed is increasing, and we can wind that speed up to whatever we like. It's a bit slow running through the menu or through the system here, but it's fine. Let's take it up to say 250. So it's on 250. We can save that setting and come out of the program. So let's now send the head, which is pointing to road 4, to road 1. So 1, and we'll do that anti-clockwise, and you'll see it accelerate and hopefully turn a bit quicker. Now I've not set this thing up yet to establish quite what the top speed is. Let's go into this again and let's hold this button in and let's see if we could take it up to, oh, I don't know, let's say 350. Oh, I've gone past 350. There we go. So 357, I think. Let's save that, exit the programming, and now I'm going to send it to road 5. I'll send the head to road 5 clockwise. Now I think you'd agree that's all pretty impressive stuff, and what I really love about this system is it's just so simple. This is just on a stepper motor, there's no gears, there's nothing mechanical to sort of go wrong, wear out, etc. So that's great, but it does have that slight jerkiness, so I wondered whether we might be able to eliminate that jerkiness by incorporating a reduction drive through a belt system. So I'll show you what I've got in mind. So this is a Mark II version with a belt drive in here. We've still got a stepper motor. There's, I think it's a 1:5 reduction, and again the same split screen setup. I'll show you the effect of the gear drive. So I've kept all the settings exactly the same as you saw previously, and the turntable thinks it's turning exactly the same speed, or the controller thinks it's going at the same speed, but in reality this is going 5 times slower. I think you can see the motion on that is pretty good. Now what I could do is go into the menu of the controller here and up that speed by, because it's obviously too slow now, I can make it go faster. But the belt drive seems to be doing the job as far as I can tell thus far. It seems to be a lot smoother. It's really quiet. And just like the previous iteration of this project that I showed you, it's sort of modular, it's quite straightforward. Although there is the belt drive in there, it's very, very simple. Now there are substantial bearings in the top and bottom of this housing, so the actual drive shaft around which the the bridge is mounted is really firm. There's no slop or play in it at all. Now, you may be thinking, well, how am I going to get power to the track? Well, what I'm proposing to use here is a slip ring, and in the centre of here I've got a tiny slip ring. So these wires would be the track power. It comes in through a little mechanical slip ring which is mounted inside this tube. This shaft is hollow. So the wires come up here through a slip ring and then out the top, so they can attach to the track and power locomotives and what have you. And they don't twist up. This shaft can do a full 360 degrees, and because the slip ring is fitted in here, these wires don't tangle. So that seems like a pretty neat little solution. Now, I've brought the prototype turntable and the controller down to my studio, and the intention was to laser cut a mock-up of what will be the turntable at the end of my traverser, and this will have cassettes radiating all around it. This piece you see cut out here is just the base part of the framework. Unfortunately, once again my laser cutter's packed up and it's not working properly, so I can't show you that. I was going to kind of assemble it all and fit this in the middle and it'd all look wonderful, but that can't happen today. But what I am going to do is show you a lovely little trick that this controller has in relation to the turntable itself. So I'll zoom you in nice and close and I'll show you how we calibrate the position of the turntable with the display on the screen. In each of the video clips I've shown so far, the orientation of the turntable bridge has been different to its position shown on the screen, and that's just because this is a mock-up and it's not in a final fixed location. But Aid has incorporated a wonderful feature on here that allows me to calibrate this. So let me show you what's what. So to begin, you can see the bridge here is running, let's say, east to west, okay, and if we look on the display, it's kind of running northwest to southeast. The turntable is set to road number 1 and the head is at road number 1, so let's assume this is the head. What we can do is rotate the display to make it all match. So if I press the program button and choose option A to rotate the display, now if I hold the button down, and hopefully you can see on the inset picture, the display is now rotating round. And so this can be calibrated Let's turn it so it's approximately east-west. Something like that. It doesn't really matter, doesn't have to be precise. When we are happy with that, we can exit the programming, and so now the display corresponds with the position of the turntable. So let's choose road 7 anti-clockwise, and it will turn. Now I've got this at an angle so the camera picks it up, but if I rotate it round something like that, we should see it all be in perfect alignment. Now I think this is great. This prototype version is powered with a little transformer adapter, but the production version will have a battery in. So this would mean, at, say for example, an exhibition setting, I would be able to pass this controller across the layout and somebody else would be able to play with it and have a go at operating the trains or operating the turntable. And if I recalibrate that, when I pass it across, I can make sure that the road positions correspond with what the viewer would see from a different operating position. I think that's really clever, and hats off to Aid for coming up with something that's so brilliant. Now I said we'd have a look at two turntables operating at once. This is turntable A and this is turntable B. So let's select turntable A, we'll choose road 4, we'll go anti-clockwise, and whilst that's operating we'll go to B, we'll choose road 3 clockwise, and hopefully you can see they're both working, and I can switch between the displays and monitor their progress. We can see turntable B is approaching road 3 and turntable A has just reached road 4. So there you go, that is the system. That's a sort of an overview of it. I could show you more, but this video once again will get far too long. But I will revisit it because I've shown this to a few people and there's been some constructive criticism and feedback, and one of the pieces of criticism was that the screen was a little bit too small. Well, I mentioned this to Aid and he's already beavering away and redesigning it, so this unit is going to require a larger screen and a colour screen, which I think will give him all sorts of opportunities programming wise, just to make the graphical interface just a little bit slicker. It's pretty good though as it is. I'm delighted with it. I think it's fantastic, great fun to play with. So that's it. I will mention one other thing. I said to Aid that if I show this on the channel, people are going to start emailing me and wanting to buy one. Was he up for it? And there's no reason why this couldn't be shared more widely. It's all the printed circuit boards done, all the coding and what have you is all there. So there's potential that we might be able to make this available in some way. Not sure what or how or whatever, but if that's something you think might be interesting, then let us know in the comments down below. It'd be interesting to see what the feedback is and see whether there's, you know, it's worth the time to take that further commercially. But anyway, for now I'm delighted with what is a superb product, and I hope that in showing it, it's maybe given you some ideas to implement with your own. Anyway, that's all for now. I'll see you next time. Cheerio.